So you're looking to buy a home in North Carolina, but wait, what's this thing called the due diligence fee? Well, think of it like a non-refundable promise ring for the house. It's the fee you as the buyer pay to the seller so they'll stop flirting with other potential buyers while you check things out. Inspections, appraisals, financing, all that good stuff. In North Carolina, this is called the due diligence fee. By legal definition, it's a fee the buyer pays the seller that gives the buyer the right to walk away from the property for any reason or no reason up until the due diligence date established in the contract. In other words, the seller is locked, the buyer is not. But there's a fee attached to that privilege. And spoiler alert, once you pay this fee, you can't get it back if you change your mind. It's a payment for time for you to make sure you love the house and that it's worth buying. Now, there are a couple of exceptions to this, and I'll talk about those towards the end of the video. But just know these exceptions are extremely rare, and you should always be prepared to lose that money should you decide to walk away from the property. Okay, but what about the due diligence period? What is that? This is basically the engagement period where you're doing all your pre-closing preparations. You're getting your inspections done, figuring out if the roof is going to leak during your first romantic dinner, or if the foundation is ready for your in-laws to visit.
Oh my God, Daniel!
Yikes. But in all seriousness, it's important you take this period seriously because there are no contingencies built into the North Carolina contract. And North Carolina is a caveat emptor state, meaning buyer beware. Now, during this period, you can back out for pretty much any reason or no reason. Maybe you don't like the neighborhood, or maybe the house has more issues than an ex-boyfriend. But remember, the due diligence fee stays with the seller if you choose to walk away. By the way, if we haven't met, my name is Beau Ferguson, and I help folks like you navigate the sometimes confusing world of real estate in North and South Carolina, which, by the way, South Carolina also has a due diligence fee, but it's structured a bit different. And let me tell you, with all these fees and deposits, it can feel like a game of Monopoly. But don't worry, I'm here to help you avoid landing on that bankruptcy space. Now let's talk about the other fee people get confused with, the earnest money deposit, also known as the EMD. Think of the EMD as a security deposit on the house. It's like saying, I'm serious about this, but I want to make sure we're both on the same page. Unlike the due diligence fee, the earnest money deposit is refundable depending on when you back out. So if you cancel the contract during the due diligence period, you typically get this money back. Just don't expect the due diligence fee to come with it. They're separate. Think of it like two different types of currency. One is monopoly money, EMD, you might get it back. And the other, well, that's real money, due diligence fee. You're not getting it back. So how much are these fees? And how are they divided up? Well, that's all negotiable. But the average is probably anywhere from 1 to 3% of the purchase price for both these fees combined. Traditionally, the EMD was a bit larger. However, I've seen that flip-flop in recent years in hot seller markets, which does put the buyer at greater risk. But you have to keep in mind that in a competitive environment, seller is not only looking at price, but also other terms in the contract, including how high the due diligence fee is. But the good news is both fees, and this is the only time both fees are married, both fees are credited toward the purchase if you go through with the sale. So if it all goes well, these fees turn out into confetti at the closing table. Now let's talk about where people get tripped up. First off, people think the due diligence fee is refundable. It's not. If you back out, it's like paying for a non-refundable ticket to a concert. You might decide not to go, but that money is gone. Another common confusion, people think the EMD is just another name for the due diligence fee. Nope. They are like Batman and Robin of real estate fees. Both play different roles, and Robin, the EMD, might still show up at the end if you call things off in time. Oh, and don't forget, the due diligence fee is paid directly to the seller up front. That sometimes surprises folks, but sellers get that money immediately. It's not sitting in an escrow account or anything like that. It's due at time of contract, and they can take that money and go on a shopping spree. So you see that understanding the due diligence fee and the earnest money deposit can save you a lot of headaches during the buying process. The due diligence fee is your, I'm serious about this, but I need to check a few things out payment. The earnest money deposit is more like a security deposit for the home, which you could get back if things don't work out. Just don't mix them up, or you could end up confused and possibly out a few $1,000s. Now, I mentioned earlier about a couple rare exceptions that would constitute a refund of your due diligence fee. Number one, if the seller breaches the contract. That one is pretty cut and dry because they hung you out to dry. Number two, if the seller willfully discloses something that is false. Now, I'm not talking about a seller that falsely discloses something out of ignorance, something they weren't aware of or didn't know anything about. I'm talking about a malicious act of purposely disclosing something they knew was false. But in this case, you would likely have to take legal action and prove that the seller intentionally falsified information, a challenge that might not be worth the money, the time, or the effort. And number three, and this is a recent change, if it is discovered during the due diligence period that a home had an addition or major structure change that was not permitted, then the seller may have to remedy the situation or return the due diligence fee if buyer chooses to walk. However, it's important to keep in mind, if it's disclosed up front that something was not permitted, then the buyer has no recourse because he knew about it going in. If you need further help navigating this fee maze, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help, and I promise no surprise fees. And of course, if you found value in this video, please subscribe. And if you're in the dark about the major real estate changes that just happened in August of 2024, then you'll want to be sure to click the next video link below. Have a rockin' and blessed day.